The big story today is the Supreme Court once again shoving their gavels up the election. Today, the Supreme Court said Trump can stay on all state ballots in a unanimous ruling. A ruling, I agree. It is a ruling that I will remind you no one has to follow because last week I declared the Supreme Court unconstitutional. So states, feel free to kick them off your ballot. Tell them Colbert says it's okay. I got your back.
There's more disturbing news. Truckloads of gray woolen uniforms are arriving at major cities all across the United States, and Democrats are lining up. They're going to have to try to scratch everybody's eyes out because they're all a bunch of transgender, feminine men, but never mind that. Steve Colbert, another Democrat Party. He was funny a bunch of years ago, but he suffered severe brain damage like Joe Biden. It's going to be the brain damage civil war. Remarkable. I don't know if you kids have been playing on your internet today, but I have a story from WSB-TV, Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome South, brother. Facebook, Instagram, down. Users report. Facebook and Instagram appeared to be experiencing an outage on Tuesday morning, Super Tuesday, with tens of thousands of users reporting issues with the social media sites. As of about 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, more than 125,000 people have reported issues with Facebook, according to the outage tracking site Down Detector. We've got a Down Detector. That's what capitalism does, gives you stuff like that. The site had more than 17,000 reports of outages on Instagram. People trying to access Facebook found themselves logged out of their accounts on desktop sites. The mobile apps users saw messages saying their session had expired. So Instagram showed users a message warning that something went wrong. Something went wrong. So your Facebook and your Instagram may be down. And if it is, apparently it's a broader outage issue. Amazing things going on all across America. NBC Fake News has a glowing picture of a smiling Michelle Obama, which is a rare occurrence. The headline is Michelle Obama's office, not Michelle Obama, but Michelle Obama's office says the former First Lady, quote, will not be running for president, end quote, in 2024. Sure. The NBC people but it's her office. It's not hers, so there's plausible deniability, you know. Great. Mrs. Obama's camp telling Mrs. Biden's camp what to say and what not to say and not to close the door. This is pretty wacky. New talking points that Obama's office proposed would affirm that she would be great at anything she chose to do and say that she was a terrific first lady. She was horrible. And that the Biden team is grateful for the work she's doing at When We All Vote. That's one of their organizations, When We All Vote. When will you all vote? Weeks early, months early, collecting, ballot harvesting, other people's ballots from apartment building lobbies and old folks' homes and homeless shelters, and then putting on surgical gloves to stuff ballot boxes. Is that when we vote? According to people familiar with the matter, they said the response was crafted to not make it sound as though Obama would never hold public office. That's Michelle Obama, which the former First Lady's aides thought Jill Biden did in her CNN interview. I got to tell you, just crazy. In the meantime, Democrats in the know, like Mark Zuckerberg, inside plans for Mark Zuckerberg's massive $260 million bunker on a secluded Hawaiian island. You got $100 billion, you might build a $260 million bunker on a secluded Hawaiian island. Why not? Facebook founder And all around twit, Mark Zuckerberg has spent the last several years acquiring an enormous parcel of land on a picturesque and secluded Hawaiian island. The tech billionaire is in the process of building a luxury estate, rumored to be costing him a cool $260 million. But included in the plans is a secretive underground bunker that's twice as big as the average Australian home. Why Australia, you might ask? Reports about the project sparked concern in certain corners of the internet and saw a flood of inquiries directed at companies that construct subterranean shelters. You know, he owns Meta and Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp and all that stuff. He hasn't commented on his new bunker home in Hawaii. Sounds pretty nice. You know, there could be maybe a typhoon or something that you'd want to get away from. It's amazing stuff. We live in funny times. When I say funny times, I don't necessarily mean humorous. You know, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama they bought the oceanfront estate in Hawaii. Barack Obama grew up in Hawaii, went to the most exclusive private school in Hawaii, the Punahou School, and all that. And he bought the estate that was in the TV show Magnum P.I. and bulldozed it because they're going to put up something nice, not that crummy old hellhole of a house that they had there. Isn't that amazing? Just amazing stuff. All right, now let's get back. Let's go to AOC at long last, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is some pretty funny stuff. AOC. She went to see a movie, and she got a little taste of her own medicine because, you know, Democrats, they love getting in everybody's face. Whether you're a Supreme Court justice or a Republican Senator Donald Trump or, you know, just a regular, ordinary person, a normal person. They love protesting, right? It's their First Amendment right, their First Amendment activities. But she went... Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she went to see a movie at what appeared to be a shopping mall. Am I right? Looked like a shopping mall. And she was with people that really didn't look like friends. It looked like she had security people with her, didn't it? But let's go to the New York Post story. AOC snaps at NYC protesters at movie theater demanding that she call Israel's military campaign in Gaza genocide. And there was cursing, the F word. We had to do a little bit of beeping. But the "it's beeped up" is one of the quotes here from the New York Post. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez lashed out at protesters at a Brooklyn movie theater who demanded the lefty lawmaker call Israel's military campaign in Gaza genocide, which she claimed she'd already done because those Jews, you know how awful those Jews are committing genocide against the poor innocent jihadis. And it sounded kind of like this. Now, these all white, I think, Democrat, left-wing, Jew-hating protesters who are pro-Islamic terrorism confronted Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and it sounded like this.
You refuse to call it a genocide in front of everybody.
I need you to understand that this is not okay.
It's not okay that there's a genocide happening. You're not actively against it.
You're lying.
You're lying.
You went on TV and avoided.
I did call it a genocide. I do hate the Jews. You're lying. You can't tell me that I didn't call it genocide. I did call it genocide. All the Democrats have to be on the same page. Otherwise, everywhere you get hassled by the mentally ill armies that they have on the loose. So here are the mentally ill people that just spotted her leaving a movie theater and started yelling at her, "You have to call it a genocide." And at least one guy here is wearing a mask, a grown man, overweight, in his 50s with his cell phone, making a video as he's yelling at Ocasio-Cortez. You have to call it genocide. He's wearing a surgical mask because the Wuhan, they're all lost in the past, aren't they? And he's got a surgical mask. And then she becomes a little huffy. You're lying. She sounds like a 12-year-old. You're lying. And it's like, am not. R2, You are too lying. I am not lying. You got to call it genocide because the Jews are committing genocide against the terrorists.
We're not lying.
We're not lying.
You've been
We're not
saying it in interviews. It's insane. You haven't been calling it a genocide.
You're insane.
Then just say it's a genocide. Just say it. Over 30,000 people are dead, AOC. You can't just say it for once. Just say the word. That's it. That's all we want you to say.
Demand it. Demand it. I demand that you say. And she's cursing. She became cursing. Over 30,000 people are dead. Just say it. Say it's genocide.
Cut it, and you're going to cut this, and you're going to clip this so that it's completely out of context. I already said that it was, and y'all are just going to pretend that it wasn't over and over again. It's up, man. You're not helping these people, and you're not helping them.
You refuse to.
You're not helping them.
This is your Democrat Party, and it's perfect. 30,000 people. 30,000 people have been killed. It's genocide. They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. They're angry. They're ignorant. They're stupid. They're Democrats. It's what they are. Now, I've been talking a little bit lately about the civil war in Sudan, right, which is a bloodbath. It's a massacre. And by the way, armed gangs are marauding around, snatching people and enslaving them. Slavery is alive and well in Sudan today. And yet somehow these people don't care about Sudan because they're racists and they don't care about slavery. And honestly, it's a humanitarian nightmare. Tens of thousands dead in Sudan. The capital, Khartoum, is surrounded by militias and there are massacres going on in slavery. The slave trade is alive and active. And also, by the way, call it genocide and call for a ceasefire. This is anti-Semitism. It's pro-jihad. It's pro-radical Islam. It's anti-civilization. The left is a gang of murderous, barbarous lunatics, most of whom appear to be mentally ill. And that's fine because that's the Democrat Party's base. Let's keep that in mind. Now, in Ukraine and Russia, again, they just said 30,000 dead, 30,000. There are 30,000 dead. There are more than 315,000 dead Russians, young men who didn't really want to go to war with Ukraine. In Ukraine, they're saying, the New York Times, 190,000 dead Ukrainians, and it's unclear whether they're counting civilian and military, but so let's put it at a ballpark of 500,000 dead in the Russia-Ukraine war. And we're responsible for providing everything to Ukraine on one side, the weapons, the money, and everything else. And the oil money to Russia, because Joe Biden is such an idiot, we're actually funding both sides. We're funding both sides of the Gaza-Israel war as well. The Democrats are. We're dropping food on them yesterday and the day before from airplanes. Hope none of them got crushed by the pellets of generosity we dropped out of C-130s. But let's go to the, what they're missing here, because I looked it up today, and it's kind of important, if you've got a brain in your head anyway, and these people, of course, don't. But there are a lot of other remarkable things, like, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for example, who tweeted about protests. She loves protests. She's all in favor of protests. And in 2020, she tweeted, the whole point of protesting is to make people uncomfortable. Well, I hope you were made uncomfortable yesterday. To folks who complain, protest demands make others uncomfortable. That's the point. To folks who complain, protest demands make others uncomfortable. An illiterate sentence from AOC. That's the point, to make people uncomfortable. Well, AOC, since you tweeted that December 2nd of 2020, I hope you were made to feel uncomfortable yesterday, because that's the whole point. And by the way, if you're really concerned about 30,000 dead in the savages' war against civilization, maybe you should be more concerned about the wars in Yemen and in Syria, because in Syria, we're talking about a civil war that's gone on for years, 306,000 dead civilians, just 306 30,000 dead civilians. That's no problem. And in Yemen, now that one is in Syria, and in Yemen, forget about it, 377,000 dead in Yemen. Why don't these idiots care about those human lives? Because they're leftists. You know, today is a good day to get a hold of Omaha Steaks, because Omaha Steaks semi-annual sale is here. You're going to get 50% off the entire site at Omaha Steaks on your mouth-watering favorites. Come on, go to omahasteaks.com and shop the semi-annual sale, where you can load up on the delicious flavors you crave for half the price. And when you use my promo code PLANTE, P-L-A-N-T-E, at checkout, you're going to get another $30 American off your order. Every purchase of Omaha Steaks backed by their unconditional money-back guarantee. You just go to omahasteaks.com, shop their semi-annual sale. Don't forget to use the promo code PLANT at checkout to get another $30 off your order. Hurry, because this deal won't last forever. Kickstart your spring grilling season today. That's omahasteaks.com. The promo code is PLANT at checkout. A minimum purchase and restrictions may apply. Visit omahasteaks.com for all the details. Yeah, 30,000 are dead. Really? Well, you're awfully ignorant, aren't you? The United Nations keeps numbers on the wars in Syria and in Yemen, which are each at least 10 times as high, and Ukraine 20 times as high. But for some reason, they don't care about that. Isn't that peculiar? Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. Now, again, these lunatics yelling at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who thinks that, annoying her is good unless it's her that's being annoyed. Never mind that. And they're yelling 30,000 dead. Well, I just in the same neighborhood in Yemen, 377,000 dead in their war. And why aren't they yelling about that? In Syria next door, 306,000 civilians dead, according to the United Nations. And that was a year ago, 306,000 dead civilians alone. But they're not protesting that. I think they might be, I don't know, are they anti-Arab? That's pretty amazing. Also in Syria, more than 16.7 million people are in desperate need of aid. Now, the Department of Veterans Affairs under Joe Biden loves transgender people in uniform.
No, we didn't.
They give us so much stuff. We had that tranny with Space Force going on and on about being a tranny in his Air Force uniform, pretending to be a lady.
Space Force.
I'm sorry, Space Force. What did I say?
You said Air Force.
It's an Air Force style uniform, but you're right, Space Force. Yeah, and the transgender, they're pushing that. They love transgender military. Now, this is pretty appalling, pretty amazing stuff, I've got to say. The Department of Veterans Affairs under Joe Biden just banned the VJ Day kiss photo from all Department of Veterans Affairs facilities. The famous photograph in New York City, victory over Japan Day, the end of World War II, VE Day, victory over Europe, VJ Day, victory over Japan, to finally bring to an end the bloodiest war in the history of humankind. In New York City, perhaps Times Square, a sailor, an enlisted sailor, kissed a woman who's dressed all in white, maybe a nurse, and everyone around smiling. The headline, from BNN. Iconic World War II victory kiss photo banned by Veterans Administration for, quote, non-consensual act. They don't have any heterosexuals left, do they? That's part of the problem, I think. The Veterans Administration ban on the iconic VJ Day photo marks a significant shift in interpreting historic images through the lens of modern societal values. That is a generous understatement, I think. And as this popped a short time ago, Citizens Free Press, the Department of Veterans Affairs, just banned the VJ Day kiss photo to foster, and it's the usual thing, of course, because they're not heterosexual, to foster a more trauma-informed environment. Photographs depicting the VJ Day kiss should be removed from all veterans' facilities. That is the statement, and that came from Citizen Free Press. Now, as this happened, it started to get more and more bizarre because, they're Democrats and they're all sexually confused, they're gender confused and everything else. And amazing stuff. The Rima Ann O. Nelson, Assistant Undersecretary for Health and Operations, Veterans and Health Administration. Amazing. This is, she's the one that put out the memo, Michael?
Yeah.
So Rima Ann, R-I-M-A-A-N-N, Rima Ann, is that a dirty term of some kind? Rima Ann O. Nelson, the Assistant Undersecretary for Health for Operations. That's actually the title. For Health for Operations. That's somebody needs to be fired for that title. Veterans Health Administration posted it, and she, according to her resume, she assumed the position of Assistant Undersecretary for Health for Operations. Get rid of that title. January 2nd of 2022. She's a Biden person, right? And she put out the thing. Now, Secretary Dennis McDonough has added a post on X. He's the Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs, and he has since posted on X, "Let me be clear, : this image is not banned from VA facilities, and we will keep it in VA facilities." So this power-drunk little lunatic woman put out a memo, and here's the memo. I have the memo right here. It's a lengthy memo written by a wordy person from the Assistant Secretary for Health for Operations, AUSHO, removal and replacement of VJ Day and Times Square photographs. And she put it out. Pretty amazing stuff, I got to say. And now it appears that lickety-split, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs has reversed her because she's insane and mentally ill. And I might guess, I don't know for sure, anti-heterosexual. It's possible. These people became well known many years later, as a matter of fact. And if you went looking for it, you'd find that the sailor George Mendoza, the kissing sailor in the famous photograph, died in 2019 at the age of 95, and that made news. The young woman became famous. It's it's a big photograph. It's the end of World War II. But they claim, oh, no, this is non-consensual. In 1945, it was a non-consensual kiss. Yeah, really? There was, it's kind of a unique moment in human history, but that's okay. And the memo she put out to foster a more trauma-informed environment that promotes the psychological safety of our employees and the veterans we serve. This is actually what she wrote in her very lengthy memo. Will be removed. the removal and replacement of VJ Day Times Square photos. The VJ Day Times Square photo should be removed from all VHA facilities. This action reflects our dedication to creating a respectful and safe workplace and is in keeping with our broader efforts to promote a culture of inclusivity and awareness. I'm telling you, that's your Democrat Party. Yes, sir. But now, again, the Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs, presumably recognizing that this was one of the dumbest things that he'd ever seen, appears to have immediately vetoed that. Veto. Now, today is Super Tuesday. It's Super Tuesday. And if you haven't voted, it's time to vote. Now, Joe Biden is in big trouble in the polls because his presidency sucks. It's awful. Now, if you're a Republican and you want to vote today, the Republican states voting today are many. Alaska, California, Utah, Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, Gesundheit, Minnesota, and there are a great many delegates up for grabs today. As you know, 854 Republican delegates up for grabs, and if you're in one of those states, you know, today's the day to get out and vote. Don't let the Democrats stop you, because you know they're trying to corrupt everything as they always do. They're not liberals. They're the left. They don't believe in our system of government. President Trump currently has 273 delegates, 273. Nikki Haley has 43 delegates. Donald Trump is not quite the presumptive nominee, I guess, technically, but it wouldn't be unfair to say that he is the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party. There are many states today that will have the option of voting uncommitted on your ballots, including Minnesota, Iowa, Colorado, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Alabama, as well as Massachusetts. You can vote uncommitted on Democrat Party ballots because Joe Biden hasn't proven to be anti-Jewish enough, pro-Hamas enough, and so it was started by the jihad crew. Was it Rashida Tlaib, or was it one of the other jihadis that was pushing for uncommitted? And if you're a Democrat, I think you should vote uncommitted. Shouldn't you? Yeah. Rashida Tlaib the other day pushing for people to vote uncommitted. There are primaries today as well. In Texas, there is a Senate primary between a couple of Democrats, Roland Gutierrez and Colin Allred. They both mean the death of Western civilization. You know, it's how they're going to destroy democracy, and democracy is on the line all the time and stuff. In North Carolina, there is a primary, Republicans for governor. Mark Robinson, Dale Folwell, is it Folwell? And Bill Graham, North Carolina governor primary among the Republicans. And in California, this is actually important. They have one of these open primaries, and it's pretty stupid because it's California. But the California primary for the Senate, because they killed off Dianne Feinstein, who also had a Chinese spy working on her staff for 20 years before the FBI got around to telling her. But they've got Barbara Lee, who's a radical extremist, Katie Porter. I love Katie Porter. She's the one who gave me one of my favorite sound bites of all time, teaching her 9-year-old girl that the earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon. And that made her 9-year-old daughter angry.
I told my 9-year-old daughter that I was going to be speaking with you. And I said, what do you think about climate change? And she said, the earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon.
Good.
And I asked her how that made her feel. And she said it made her feel angry. And
then she self-immolated. It's a terrible update on the Katie Porter story. Her daughter, now 11 years old, has self-immolated on the steps of the Supreme Court because of the weather. The earth is on fire. She hasn't really, but, the day is young. So in California, the Senate primary, Barbara Lee, Democrat, leftist, radical. Katie Porter, mentally ill, should have her children taken away. Adam Schiff, the biggest liar in Washington, D.C., which is like being the tallest guy in the NBA. Adam Schiff, and this is crazy, the fourth option in the California Senate primary is Steve Garvey, the former Los Angeles Dodgers baseball hero and so on. And I saw him being interviewed on the television yesterday, Steve Garvey. And I got to say, he came off very, very well, very much like a senator. Now, he's the Republican. Now, and the primary today, there are four choices. Barbara Lee, Democrat. Adam Schiff, Democrat. Katie the Psychopath Porter, Democrat. And Steve Garvey, Republican. And the two that get the greatest number of votes go on to be on the ballot for the general election, which is kind of crazy. But it's California. And Steve Garvey, obviously a much better choice. He's not a communist. And he ought to be on the ballot. And as I understand it, he's doing very well in the polls in California. And he was beating Adam Schiff, who is otherwise the front runner because they love to be lied to and spanked. Know what I'm talking about? So there it is. Now the polls, when it comes to the, yeah, it's true. She also poured a vat of boiling water and potatoes onto her husband. Katie Porter did. I remember that. That was a happy story. Yes, sir. Scalding her husband. I think she's single now. I think. After pouring the vat of boiling potatoes on her husband. I love boiled potatoes, but not that way. But in any case, the Democrats ought to be doing very, very poorly. Poll of registered voters, condition of the economy, 26% of Americans, Republicans and Democrats and independents, 26% say the economy is either good or excellent. 73% say it's either poor or only fair. Now, that's very bad for them. Very, very bad. But today is Super Tuesday, and if you haven't gotten out to vote, get out and vote. It's voting matters. We're America. You got to get out and vote. Brave men and women have fought and died for our rights to vote, and we must honor that by voting. I voted on Saturday for Donald Trump in the Washington, D.C. primary, as pointless as voting in Washington, D.C. can be, but I certainly vote every time I have the opportunity to do so. Let's take a quick call. Let's go. I'm looking up. I've been too rude, talking too much, not taking enough calls. Let's go to Rob, calling from Montgomery County, Maryland. Rob, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris, how you doing today?
Very well, Rob. Thank you. Thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah. You were talking about insurrection earlier. I think the whole lot of them, like you said, they're all in a hot tub together.
Hot tub. Circle fest in a hot tub.
A circle fest. Have you heard the term reckless endangerment?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Oh, how about we float this idea to do a class action lawsuit of the people, by the people, against the current crowd causing all this mayhem.
Because of the open borders thing? All the Venezuelan gangs?
Everything, all the above, everything against, exactly.
Well, I want Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas to be charged as accessory to the many crimes. And I think states across the country, if there's a murder in Texas by an illegal alien who was released from a Venezuelan prison or not, Nicolas Maduro emptied his prisons and sent them all here. There are murders and robberies and rapes going on. And Joe Biden is an accessory. But I love the reckless endangerment approach to a civil suit. Sue them civilly. And then Joe Biden will claim that he's immune as president, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that'll be funny.
Yeah. I'm glad you keep us all more than informed. And thank you so much for what you do, because there'd be a lot of depressed people, more depressed people out there.
Well, I tell you, you're very kind. I appreciate that very much. When I was voting in the primary at the Madison Hotel on Saturday, I ran into several people who they're voting for the Republican Party in Washington, D.C. And I can't tell you, a number of people came up and just grabbed me and laughed and said, thank you. One nice lady said, thank you for making me laugh every day so we don't all have to blow our brains out. So it's very nice. And yeah, it's true. These are peculiar times and you have to be able to make fun of it and continue to fight another day for everything that is good in the world. And all of that starts right here in the United States of America. God save us all. Now, the Daily Caller is investigating the Veterans Affairs story about the kiss in Times Square on VJ Day. It's unclear. The story is perfectly unclear now, but VA is not talking. Secretary put out a tweet saying we are not banning the photo. The rest is unclear whether this woman really banned it without asking. We'll sort that out and get back to you. I'm almost out of time, but let's grab Phil real quick from Fredericksburg, Virginia, because Phil just voted. Phil, only got a few seconds for you. Wanted to get you in before we wrapped up.
I was the first person to vote in Stafford County, Virginia. I voted for freedom. I voted for President Donald John Trump to make America, America again. Thank you for what you do there, Mr. Plant. God bless you all.
Well, thank you very much. That was succinct. That was great, wasn't it? Isn't that wonderful? And that's Stafford County, which I didn't even get to the story. Phil from Stafford County today, which I wanted to. Suspect with chainsaw in custody after manhunt in Stafford County because a person armed with a chainsaw and a hammer broke into a home and tried to steal a car in Stafford County, Virginia, before being apprehended Monday by police, because police are the good guys. Democrats are the bad guys. Suspect taken into account. He broke into a home with a chainsaw. No word on whether he was wearing a leather mask or not. And apparently the homeowner scared him away. Good homeowner. Good homeowner.